welcome everyone to our August 2023 PowerShell community call. Thank you all for being here. As you can see in the chat, Jason went ahead and posted our code of conduct. So as always, just a reminder about that. Although we never seem to have any issues on this call, everyone is very welcoming. So I expect nothing but that. Another reminder that this call is recorded. And we do have notes that we post up with the recording as well. I think we're going to try and make an effort to post the meeting chat as well, since there's been some requests for that. So we'll see if we can make that happen. So just be aware of that. Anything you say will be recorded, and the chat probably as well. We try and get the recordings up as soon as possible, but definitely within 2 weeks. With that, I also posted a link to our discussion in GitHub for this month's call. As always, you can use that discussion to pre-populate topics you'd like to hear or request any topics, questions, anything like that is great. We're always looking for community demos or community announcements. So that's another really awesome place if you have anything you'd like to show, to add that as well. So with that, I will get started. We have a pretty full agenda today. But yeah, as always, feel free to use the chat for any questions that come up along the way. You can also use the raise hand feature, and we'll try and leave some time at the end for any questions that come up. I have the first two agenda topics, so I'll be talking a bit at the beginning, and then you guys can hear from the rest of the team. So first up, a few announcements around PS Resource Get. So since our last community call, we've had 2 preview releases of PS Resource Get, which is pretty exciting. So in particular, at the last community call, I announced that we would be having a bug bash for PS Resource Get. So I just wanted to do a quick little recap of that, and just a huge thank you to the community for joining in and participating on that. I think we saw it as a really huge success. We had some really great participation from some awesome community members. And we were able to successfully open about 20 bugs that we got resolved in beta 24. So that was a really successful bug bash. But one thing I did want to apologize for around the bug bash was that I don't think I ever actually explained what a bug bash was. I think I just totally took for granted that it's like a Microsoft term, maybe. So we use it all the time internally. We do a lot of bug bashes. And so I wasn't necessarily, it's totally my bad and my fault that I didn't realize that maybe that wasn't a term that everyone knows or uses. So I just wanted to apologize for that. So, and explain what a bug bash is, because our team definitely plans to do more public bug bashes in the future. We felt like it was a really successful experiment and a lot of fun. So something we want to do in the future. But what a bug bash is an opportunity to like come together and use a new feature or service, and to try and like find all the edge cases, to find all the bugs and report as many bugs as possible. So the way it works typically is you get fresh bits of something that's being built, and then you get like a list of scenarios, or you get to build your own scenarios, and then you work together as a team with other folks at the bug bash to try and like try things out, find all the edge cases, and report and find as many bugs as possible in a condensed amount of time. So that's generally sort of the goal of the bug bash, is just to find as many bugs as possible. And so that was what we were doing kind of together there. And so yeah, just thank you again to everyone who participated, and look forward to more bug bashes from the team in the future. We're going to try and keep a cadence of those, doing them. It's something we already do internally as a team typically, but since we're an open source project, it's like, why not involve the community in that? Why not make that public? So thanks for that. I did also want to just go ahead and plug this PS Resource Get release. I posted a blog post. I'm just going to link that in the chat. Huge thank you to the team and also to the community members who opened up all the bugs for these, and getting us to this point. This kind of release, I'm going to include beta 23 and beta 24, since we've released both of those since the last community call. Include like a lot of bug fixes. Like I think probably between the two, maybe like 70 bug fixes, something like that. I think beta 23 had about 50 bug fixes in it, and I think beta 24 had about 20 bug fixes in it. So like a lot of bug fixes went into this. Yeah, as Michael posted in the chat, we have some new aliases, thanks to community feedback for those. That was pretty huge. We added credential persistent support for publish resource, PS resource. So publish should be working a lot better, especially for repositories that aren't the PowerShell gallery. So thanks to everyone who's been trying out all the different repositories besides PowerShell gallery, because those ones are a lot harder for us to test out. We do have CI for them, but we just don't have as many edge cases. We don't know all of the scenarios you're using with all your different private repos. So especially using testing against private repos, so huge for us. So thank you to everyone who's been testing and opening up bugs for us. So those are just a few of the big highlights, but definitely check out these repos. We also had community contribution from Thomas Snedo and from Fred Weinman as well. So thank you to the community contributions as always. And then we had some docs updates as well. So thanks to Sean and Mikey for helping us out with docs and getting our docs in order as we approach GA. And then also Amber and Unum also put together a new examples folder in our repo for more examples of how to use find and install. So thanks to everyone for that. Just one last plug in terms of timeline. I've been getting a lot of timeline questions for PS Resource Get, and we're getting close to GA. This is our last beta or preview 24, beta 24. This last preview is our last planned preview. And as far as I can tell, the bug reports that have come in so far from it, there's nothing that's blocking us from RCing. So our RC or our like release candidate release would be coming in the next month, I would say. And so that's pretty huge for us because, you know, if you're not familiar, like when we say a release candidate, we consider that to be like a go live release. So that's like a fully production supported release. And at that point, we're kind of committing to not making any more changes. So if we, once we go RC, to make any changes, like even a bug fix or anything like that, would indicate the need for another RC before we could GA. So going RC is a pretty big deal for us. We plan to make some more bug fixes before into this RC release, but it's a pretty high bar at this point to make changes. And then hopefully one RC and into GA, but we have room in our timeline to potentially do a second RC if necessary. And then one final thing about all of that timeline and stuff that I just want to remind folks too, is that it's not like a GA and we're done thing. Like it's a GA and we're really excited to work on like one preview one. Like we have that stuff in the docket too. So it's like, it's just a matter of getting to GA and then we continue with like the next preview and all that. So lots of exciting stuff. But if you are like, haven't tried out PS Resource Get and you want to make sure it works with your thing, like now, like this week is probably the time if you want your bug fix to get in before GA. So that's my final plug. And I'll also pause for a second to see if anyone else from the PS Resource Get team wanted to add anything about the bug bash or the releases that I might have missed because I just talked for like 10 minutes straight.
Nope, I don't.
Yeah, that sounds good, Sydney.
Awesome. Good stuff. From there, I'm going to pass things over to Jason, who's going to talk about Crescendo RC.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Sydney. I'm just getting my stuff here set up. Hey, everyone. I'm really happy to announce that the release of PowerShell Crescendo 1.1.0 RC is out. So Crescendo is a framework to rapidly develop PowerShell commandlets for common command line tools, regardless of platform. Based on your feedback, we've made several improvements for this release candidate. So you can now pass parameter arguments to the output handler without sending those arguments to the native command. Gives you more flexibility, such as if you want to make filters for your commands rather than send them to where object or select, that kind of thing. We've also improved code generation for the Crescendo module, which will improve your results with PS Script Analyzer, and we've made several other additions as well. what I'm going to do is give you the links to the blog, to our GitHub, and to the Crescendo docs. If you do me a favor, I really appreciate it if you could take a look at our current RC release. When do we plan to go to GA? Well, as Cindy was just mentioning, RC is when we're pretty much locked and ready to go, but we are quality driven. So, and we take that really seriously, which means I'm thinking that we're going to ship in about a month, maybe 2. However, I don't have an exact date for you. Just we'll see what comes in from feedback and that kind of thing. But we are very aggressively getting ready to push this version out the door. So thank you for your time. Thanks for taking a look at it. Oh, one other thing, I wanted to send my love and best wishes to my friend Stevie Coaster, and I hope all of you have a great day. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. Very exciting stuff there. And shout out to Jim too, who's done a ton of work with Crescendo. Next up we have
shout out to Jim. Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, of course. We have Michael, who's giving us all the exciting updates around DSC v3. I think you're muted, Michael.
Thank you. That's always a catch. So we are definitely, for all of the hashtag DSC is dead comments, we 100% are investing in DSC. So if you go out, everything is open source now. If you go look at github.com/PowerShell/DSC, that is the right place to start. You will find we are essentially reinventing DSC in version 3. So everything that you have known about how to use DSC in the past, keep that in your brain. You're going to need it, but there's also a whole bunch of new stuff to go learn. It's 100% native commands. So there is a DSC command. If you're familiar with tools like Git or AZCLI, or I call it kubectl, it kind of follows that type of format. So it would be like DSC configuration, DSC resource, etc. You'll see in the README our list of priorities, but number 1 is compatibility with existing community resources, which means even though we're sort of embracing this concept of using native commands in a PowerShell environment, we also want this to be able to run anywhere. We want to be able to run on any platform, embrace additional languages, but our highest priority is if there are community modules out there that work today for DSC, they should keep working in the future. And then you'll see the remaining priorities, which are basically all of the feedback that you've given us in the last few years about DSC. We'd like to be able to do things like just have a one-liner in Bash that is fundamentally a get, set, or test within a DSC resource and things like that. So there's lots of stuff to go explore. You'll see that this is what we're calling an alpha. You could also think about it like a developer preview if you're familiar with the really old Internet Explorer release terms. But the idea is we want to open the door and have people start taking a look at this from a very, very early point of development, because we want your feedback. So we really would appreciate, we're not taking PRs yet, we will in the future. Right now we're focused on help us understand what your requirements are via the issues list. So there's enough there that you can play around with it. There is a release, we will keep doing releases. You can also build it yourself. I found that to be pretty easy in my environment. And just play around, see what you think. You'll find all kinds of cool stuff. It doesn't have a dependency on WMI or OMI, so you don't have to worry about working with Moth files anymore. Everything is in JSON and YAML. So basically everything people have asked for is in that list. So I look forward to your feedback and finding out what your requirements are as we work towards a future beta release.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael, for all the updates. And now we'll hear from Sean with our docs updates.
Yeah, so to tag on to the DSC announcement, Mikey Lombardi behind the scenes for the last month or 2 has been feverishly working on new documentation for DSC version 3. As you'll see, there's 55 new documents now out here in the PowerShell DSC v3 content set. And he's also produced this tutorial site that shows you how to create your own DSC resources. And with the new DSC, your resources are just command line native applications, and you can write them in any language. So he gives an example of creating a resource in Go, but more importantly, what he's establishing here is the pattern that you can follow. So you can write it in any language you want, as long as you're following this pattern. And also out here is an example application. You need something to manage. So this is an example application that can be managed, and then he wrote the resource code to manage it. So I'll put all of these links in the chat. That's all the DSC docs. Been a Herculean effort behind the scenes. I also want to point out our monthly update. So in the past month, we've had the preview 4 release of PowerShell. So we've updated the release notes on that. Lots of activity going on in the PS Resource Git documentation space. I also updated the Get What's New, so it has the latest release notes in it. And I may be working on further updates to that in the future, time willing. For PS Resource Git, all of the documentation, commandlet reference documentation was updated for beta 24. And I just want to brag a little bit here about the import PS get repository commandlet. This is a script I wrote and contributed to the source code. This allows you to convert the repositories you've registered for PowerShell Get version 2 to the new PS Resource Get version 3 repository format. And that's it for docs.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. And yeah, thanks for writing that commandlet as well. Super helpful. So if you don't know, when you shifted from PowerShell Get to PS Resource Get, we had to move the repository XML file. And so that really handy commandlet will move your registered repositories for you, so you don't have to re-register them. So thanks to Sean for contributing that. Awesome. Next, we can hear from Andy talking about the VS Code extension pre-release or preview release. Yeah.
Hello, let me get my screen shared here. So just a small update. We are essentially back to our pre-release schedule of trying to get pre-releases of the VS Code extension out. The first thing I want to point out is a versioning change. It is no longer year, month, day, as we were so accustomed to for so long. So this is not a September release. In order to keep pre-releases available in the marketplace, where you pull up the extension in like VS Code and you see, oh, a pre-release button, we essentially have to keep our pre-releases +1 from our releases because they're actually all just in one channel. It's a bit of finicky versioning stuff. So ignore the fact that the 9 used to look like a month. It's now just an incrementing version. Pre-releases will always be odd, and their corresponding stable releases will be the even number before that. So the next release to the marketplace is going to be 2023.8. The year had to stay because it's already the major version. So just calling that out there for a change in our versioning. You can read about it in our docs if you're interested. This is a pre-release with actually a good few updates. One major change that we've made is that the CWD setting and additional PowerShell exe settings now actually support tilde if you want to use tilde to refer to your home directory, as well as relative paths, at least like relative to the workspace root. And if you're in a multi-root workspace, very importantly, you can now just use the name of the folder. So if you've got like a client and a server folder, like we do in our multi-root workspace for development on this extension, and you put client as the name of the CWD, the extension is smart enough in the pre-release to go, oh, you want to use the client folder for the multi-root workspace. And that means you can actually commit that to your settings and let that sync over, which is great because it used to require just an absolute path, which would be put into your settings and then it would sync to another machine. And you're like, that doesn't work because it's an absolute path. So we fixed that in the pre-release. Please give that a try. Let us know how it works. The additional PowerShell exes is also a little better. It doesn't use multi-root workspaces, but it supports that tilde and relative paths, or at least relative in the sense that you could put a ... in there and it's going to resolve it. So it's not absolutely requiring absolute paths anymore. The other major thing I want to call out here is that the PS Readline beta is now in PowerShell Editor Services for this pre-release. Please give that a try. We're looking to see how stable that is. If we're not seeing any issues, we may decide to keep that in the stable release just to get it into the hands of some more users a little early, since that will be going into RC soon enough. So yeah, give this a try. We're excited to be back to releasing previews of the VS Code extension. Also, big shout out to several community members for getting other great things in here. You can adjust the start location for the extension terminal. Thanks, Krishna. And Fro just keeps on, F-Flat in here just keeps on fixing everything for me. So really appreciate those community members and their great contributions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy and Patrick, for all the updates there. And thank you to all of our community members being active in our repo too. All these updates came from issues that were open. So definitely appreciate that as always. And now we can shift things over to Damien, who's going to give us a little update around version update tool notification.
Yes, thanks, Ine. I'm going to start sharing my screen and I'm going to give a bit of context to start with. So one of the challenges we have with Azure PowerShell in general is we're shipping every month and not everyone is aware that we have a new version available. That can be okay to stay on a known version for a bit of time, but we have a lot of changes that are coming on the security side of things. We ensure that we protect tokens, as an example. We apply the best principles around token management and authentication libraries, and we want to notify customers that there is a new version available. So we are working on releasing probably next month, maybe the next one. So we are looking at the timeline right now when we are going to be fully ready to notify in tool when we have a new version available. So I've prepared a session here. I'm running an older version of Azure PowerShell. I hope everyone knows or see my screen. And I'm just going to do a simple connect to Azure. So something that everyone is doing every now and then. And as every single demo, it didn't show as expected, and that's that's okay. So what we do is we don't notify all the time about newer versions here. We make sure we notify once, and then we write that information on disk, so we don't nudge too frequently that there is a new version available. So what we're providing is a warning message indicating that you're running version X, and the latest version of AZ is Y. We are providing guidance on how to upgrade from version X to version Y. And we are also providing a link to look at all the changes that happen between those two versions. Here, it's a major version change, so we're expecting breaking change, and the page has all those breaking changes listed. In certain situations, you don't have AZ all up. You only have one command or one module installed. You just want to have AZ accounts, and in this case, let's say AZ AKS. So the notification will appear when you run the command that are related to the command of that specific module. So in this case, that's an AZ AKS cluster. And here it is. We're also having the notification for that command related to this module. We are fleshing out some details on how frequently we want to have the message out. As an example, do we want to hit once a month? Do we want to have it more frequently or less frequently? We are fleshing those kind of details as we speak. And yeah, we are planning to release that in hopefully the September release.
Very cool, Damien. And I'm personally, Damien knows this, but I'm personally very excited and invested in this because at the PS resource get level, we oftentimes get kind of requests around this of like, it would be great to know when my my modules can be updated and all those sorts of things. So it's awesome that Damien's running an experiment for us so give him all the feedback about how you like it, how you don't like it, all of those things, so that we can kind of take these learnings and apply them or not apply them, I guess, to PS Resource Get. So definitely give Damien all the feedback. From there, I'm going to pass things over to Sean, who's going to give a conference recap.
Okay, yeah, so it's been sort of a busy season for a few of us. At the end of July, Mike Robbins and I spoke at SQL Saturday in Baton Rouge. They run a big event every year. They've done this for going on 13 years, I think. And they have a PowerShell track amongst all of their SQL content. I did a session on optimizing your PowerShell profile so that it can run across version and across platform. And Mike did a session on an introduction to PowerShell scripting. Then this past week was PowerShell on the River in Chattanooga, and Mike and I did a workshop, half-day workshop about going beyond comment-based help for your modules. So we talked about how to create MAML-based help, how to wire up, get help online for your modules and commandlets, and how to wire up updatable help for your modules. And we published this all to a website. I'll drop this in the chat. You're welcome to come out here. We have all of our presentations out here, and on the downloads page, links to download the code that we used in our demos. And then coming up after Labor Day, Jason Helmick, Jeff Hicks, and myself are doing a workshop at Spice World in Austin. That's another 3-day conference, I think it is, and we have the pre-con half-day workshop going on there. So looking forward to that. And Mike Kanakis, you wanted to jump in here with a call out?
Yeah, just a real simple thing. So first of all, Sean and Mike's demo was fantastic. I talked to them afterwards. It's really cool stuff they did. You should check out that demo website. There's a lot of good information there. I have to say it was really great to get together with the community in person and do stuff. My group has been meeting in person once a month, but you know, that's very localized. So it's good to see a bunch of familiar faces. But one thing that struck me is, you know, the community is still trying to recover from pandemic and get back to pre-pandemic levels. And so I just wanted to take a moment to remind the good people that get on this call every month and in other areas that our community still needs a lot of help. And if you can, it would be wonderful if people could show their face at some local events and maybe get involved in any way that is within your capabilities. You don't have to run a user group. You can write blog posts. You can commit to the forums. You can commit and participate in bug fixes. But especially on the user group side and the public get-togethers, the numbers are way down from where they were 4 years ago. And I know that everybody I talk to enjoys getting together in person, but we definitely could use some help in the community with people attending events and regular sort of events that go on. So if you have it within the wherewithal of what you can do, we'd love to see you at some future events. Oh, I should also say, maybe, I hope it's okay to say, James Brundage is looking to start up a user group in the Seattle area. So look out for some announcements about that if you're in the local area and you want to get together. And one of my functions with PowerShell.org is to help people get that process started. If anybody in the community is interested in trying to set up some sort of Saturday event or user group or some public forum, I have resources that I can give you, and I can help you with experience from what I've done in the past. You just need to reach out to myself. I know my co-lead for the Research Triangle user group, Phil Boston, would be happy to help with that process as well. Essentially, just reach out and we'd be happy to help.
I guess jumping in for a half second here since my name was mentioned. So real quick, yeah, I'm trying to start up a Pacific PowerShell user group. As a longtime West Coast resident, I've noticed that there really isn't that much user group activity on our time zone. I've got at least one volunteer to try to co-host. I would actually really love if we could get at least one Microsoftie to try to help as well, just because, look, being honest, you guys are all really popular and everybody wants to follow what Microsoft's up to, and it would really help Recurrent Draw and would give you guys another channel to come out and talk about things that you're working at a longer cadence than the community calls. So if you wanted to spend like half an hour on DSC via Next or an hour, you could. Tentatively trying to start that up next month, might end up being the month after, tentatively looking at the middle of the month, the second Wednesdays. And if anybody wants to volunteer to help out, drop it in the chat, drop me a message on any of the socials. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, super appreciate that from everyone, and always definitely want to encourage that. And if you do, if you are looking for like folks from the team to like participate, like whether it's just like a one-time thing, right, to like come give a talk at your user group or something, definitely do reach out, because we definitely do that and are totally happy to participate in user groups or meetups and that sort of thing. And also, like, another thing I wanted to mention too is we're working on putting together a list of like conferences as well that folks attend in the PowerShell and PowerShell adjacent space. So if you do have any conferences that you really like or that you attend, or you're like, oh, it would be great if there was more of a PowerShell presence here, please like let us know as that as well. That would be super useful to know as well. But with that, I think we're gonna move on to, I'm seeing a lot of activity in the chat, but I think we're good to keep going. I believe that Charlie Kindle, I think I made you a presenter. I don't know if you go by Tig, but
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Hi all. The second time I've joined the community call. Steve asked me to join again to give an update. I'm going to share my screen and show you what we're working on. I think some of you may have seen this before. Share screen, share screen. You'd think that I'd know how to do this regularly. Why am I not seeing? Oh, there it is. All right. Window. This guy. Okay. Nod if you can see my screen. All right, right on. Okay, so the first thing is the general topic is enabling a much more interactive apps within the console than just the command line. And there's a lot of stuff going on around terminal UIs. What we're talking about today is based on a project that was originally started by Miguel Diaz-Queza, and I've now taken it over for the last 5 or 6 years, called Terminal GUI, and it's a entire library for building console GUI apps, and it's extremely rich. A library with everything you can imagine that you'd want in a console app that you can get from normal GUI apps. Tyler Leonard had a long time ago had built a version of the built-in PowerShell commandlet out grid view. He built out console grid view using terminal.gui, and I took it over a couple years ago and have been maintaining it. And basically, by simply installing console the console GUI tools package from the PowerShell gallery, you have the ability to use out console grid view or OCGV, and you can pipe any PowerShell output into it. One of the classic uses of this is just being able to do an ls command. What I wanted to show today is an update to a tool that's built on top of Out Console Grid View called F7 History. A lot of you know that we lost the ability to use F7 in PowerShell with PowerShell Core. And F7 History is just a script that I've just recently packaged up into PowerShell Gallery. So it's super easy to install. And the basic idea is you start typing something on the command line, hit F7, and you get a graphical view of your command line history, and that's filtered by whatever you previously had on the command line. And you can change that filter interactively. And then whatever you select gets put back onto the command line for you. If you hit Shift F7, you get the global PS readline based history. So that's the gist of this. It's now super easy to install and set up. You just do the classic install module, F7 history, and you've got it. And it works cross-platform. We've got a couple bugs we're working on right now. Right now, the current version that's out there leaves a little bit of remnant on the screen when you exit it. That'll be fixed shortly. And then the next thing I was going to show just real quickly, because it's pretty cool, it's coming, to illustrate where we're going with this, is another contributor to Terminal GUI has developed a show object commandlet. And what this does is it's similar to out console grid view, except for it outputs a tree view. And so you basically give it any PowerShell object, and it gives you an interactive tree view for being able to iterate over that object. And it's not quite done yet. We're still working on it. Hopefully, the next couple of weeks we'll have it included with console GUI tools. Any questions?
Quick comment. Maybe show tree. Show object actually was a really old command in show UI. And what show object did in show UI was had a bit of extensibility so that you could basically say, here is the type that I'm going to show, and that could have a stored definition. So in this case, it seems like a very good tree view, which would be very, very valuable. Nice interactive tree view, great. If you're going to call it show object and have that generic of a command name, I would love to have that generic of a capability attached to it.
Sorry about that. I misspoke. The original PR was named show object, but we're currently in the PR. It's the command is show object tree.
Sweet. But yeah, it looks fantastic, and I cannot wait to figure out how to integrate with it.
Right on.
Awesome. Very cool stuff. Thank you for hopping on the call and for showing all that off. That's awesome. I'm looking at the GitHub discussion, and I think James, you offered to do a quick demo on PS Style. Is that right?
That is, sorry, I keep muting myself. This would be a nice follow-up on it. A quick demo on easy out capabilities in PS Style and a new module. So let's see if I can't get this show on the road. Sorry, I got to drag over code. Give me a second or two to get prepped. So, do you want me to properly share, or is the monitor or the camera okay? Let's do proper sharing. Looks like I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little grainy unless you properly share, I think.
Do you need permission?
We made a presenter.
I will need some permissions. Yep.
Alrighty, just 1 second.
It's all right. It gives me a chance to control F4 like mad. Do I have too many tabs open? What is too many tabs open?
All right, you should be a presenter now.
Still control F4ing. There we go. Let's see. So we'll get back to the fun module in a second. I think this is the correct one. Actually, I am not sharing the correct one, I think. Sorry. Apologies for the technical difficulties. No, we got it right. Okay. So we'll jump into this module in a quick second. Let's go over to check out Easy Out's new stuff here and import show demo. Import Easy Out. So for those that aren't aware, Easy Out is a really old, useful module that creates formatters. And the short version of the new changes is something like this is now supported. Let me actually get a shorter version still. So I can basically have something that uses a style inside of, it's a PS style inside of It's Easy Out. One of these has a proper demo, the other one does not. So this basically allows you to, again, right? Easy Out's been around for forever. It helps you write format files. This now allows you to basically easily integrate something like just go ahead and style that particular thing bold. So here, this creates bold, creates a reset, renders an A. Okay, we're gonna add format data or out format data to get the whole format file, and then add format data, add it interactively. You don't normally use user out interactively. I'm just showing it real quick. And then we're gonna get to the fun stuff. So that's been bolded. Let's go ahead and do that again and make it italic. And make it italic in green. And have the demo gods curse me, sorry. Going back on from that to the way more fun stuff. So one of the things that people have complained about for a long time with Easy Out is don't add so much formatting to the formatting module. Put that somewhere else. And about a month ago, I had a talk to give at Tech Mentor about fantastic formatting with Easy Out. And so I built this cool new module called Posh. This is Posh's default formatter. It exposes no commands, just formatters and types. And one variable itself as a nice formatted object. There's all sorts of fun games in here. Let's start with, I can actually get a colorized format view for files without having to have nerd fonts installed. This is also one of those, if you like your nerd fonts, you can have it. So if I have terminal icons here, go over to dir. Oh, well, I don't have nerd fonts currently set as my default here, so remove terminal icons, and import again, and we're back. The other thing that it does is colorization for get command based off of the verb. I have a lot of commands. Another thing that it does is colorization for get member. And I actually just remembered I got this nice demo here, so let's go ahead and just do that. Let it do the typing for me. So it's meant to improve the PowerShell experience. Are the demo gods going to be that cruel? Possibly. Yes, my demo thing is broken. I apologize. This is what I get for doing everything on my dev machine. So PS style reset, just so it gets me back to normal. Oh, let's see. Other fun formatters in here. We got the reflection formatter, where you can get a full colorized view of a type's reflection data. And you do that by piping a type to format custom. We got a formatter for get time zone. We got a formatter for new time span. We got a formatter for regex. If I can type quickly enough. Maybe I can't. So there are lots of built-in formatters in there that improve your shell experience. The other thing that it does is it adds a bunch of data to any given module to help market itself. So if I go look at, say, posh.links, I can get links that were recommended by this module. Any module can have their own links, thus making it easier to, say, explore related resources. There's also screenshots, same sort of bit. I haven't uploaded any yet, but there is a videos property that does the same thing. I want to point out a few quick things here. One, yes, these are clickable links. So if I go over to the PowerShell Discord, it's opening up in that in a new page. This is also true for the files. So if I go dir here and I click README, just opens it right up. This is all built on top of, again, formatting files, easy out, and the new VS style features. And the coolest, freshest off the press thing is posh.news. Basically, I've taken a lot of different common PowerShell news feeds and created a pseudo object around that. So this might take a couple seconds, but we can just go ask for recent news. I'm going to go get content from a bunch of different feeds and then spit back out any article in the last 45 days. And again, clickable links. So let's go give Crescendo a shout out there. Control click. There's also a bit of prompt modification in here. This is a fun module that's designed to kind of make PowerShell easier to use. I'm also kind of shocked and pleasantly surprised that I was actually able to name a module Posh and that nobody else camped that. But you are more than welcome to throw in your links, throw in your blog, start throwing this sort of stuff into your own module. If you have installed and imported Posh, it will show up on there. So if I say like get module show demo here and ask for its recommendations. I guess that is one more thing to show. You can also recommend modules. So any given module can expose all the metadata that Posh is kind of opening up. And if Posh is also loaded, then you'll just see it and it'll just work. Sorry for my demo snafus. Let me know thoughts, comments, questions about this particular new fun PowerShell toy, and I will try to shut up now because I believe I talked too long. Questions, thoughts, or stop presenting?
Well, just in case anybody didn't see in the chat, I threw a link. James demoed this 2 weeks ago for my user group and did a fantastic job. And in true James fashion, he's added new functionality in the last 2 weeks that doesn't exist in the demo.
Yes. Also, apparently I broke my demo, player, but hey, at least that isn't public yet.
Yeah, all part of the game. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up and a lot of the clapping reactions, but thanks for showing this, James. We definitely appreciate it. Very cool demo.
Do you mind if I pile on?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I will share my screen as well, maybe.
All right. I mean, if we can get like a hat trick of awesome shell modification like demos, I think it would be great. Because I'm really looking forward to the GUI CS stuff, like becoming more a part of PowerShell and adding more color to PowerShell overall. So
Can you
got
see my
another
screen?
one? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. I saw James submit the, hey, can I talk about Easy Out this morning? It came in through GitHub. To be totally honest, I've never had a chance to play with it before, but the last PowerShell podcast, I know they were talking about formatting, and then I saw this, and like, God, the community's definitely killing it in formatting. I'm falling behind, so I gotta go play with this. And then I was thinking about the work Stephen is doing for adapters and that Jim Truer is working on. I thought, man, this would be like a magical marriage. So we're trying to figure out for all of the other tools in the world that don't follow verb-noun and they just have a native command, how do we make that experience really, really great whenever you're working in a terminal running PowerShell? So I just whipped up a quick demo So if you were to run ifconfig, like you're sitting, like this is a Mariner container, right? And you were looking at your IP, and you're like, yeah, this is like awful to read, and I can't pipe it and do cool object stuff with it. So then what if I use an adapter? So I whipped up a quick adapter for ifconfig that takes that, parses it. And if you're not familiar with the feedback adapters, go talk to Steven. He'll catch us all up on adapters, but the whole idea is to have a community repo of how to take native commands, build parsers for them, and make them objects very trivially in PowerShell. So cool. Now we've got an object from ifconfig, and we can go, do stuff like pipe it to convert JSON. That's all built into PowerShell. Cool. So then I started looking at easy out. So, what can I do with that? Oh my gosh, James has built a whole lot of stuff into easy out. So I started playing around with that, and okay, what if I just take that first example, and instead of piping it and converting it to JSON, I want to make a markdown table. It's just a pipe away. So thank you, James. That's really cool. And then I started playing around with what you were just showing, which is in the interactive terminal. What if I define a type? So I had that as an object type netint for network interface. And as you saw, like it was kind of pulling the terms forward from ifconfig, which are not that user friendly. So I just real quick played around with what if we alias the headers? What if we give them width, virtual properties, which is mind blowing. So now I could have an adapter and a type defined for the adapter, and I could use his tool to actually make this a type definition, and we should probably look at how to include those in adapters. But to take that somewhat ugly object I had created from the parser and make it actually really nice. And I didn't even get into like conditional colorizing and things like that. That's really amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you, James. This was a cool thing to go play with this morning, and I had a lot of fun with it. So
I'm glad you had fun. Also, I'm tentatively happy at some of the rhetorical changes around adapters. For my block or money, they are just parsers. I would love you to take a look at the module UGet, because UGet does a lot of this stuff in a probably more elegant way than the feedback providers are trying to do now. The high level answer there is basically you have a script, it uses validate pattern to determine if it should run. So I'll have a validate pattern that says get log, that means I'm the parser for get log, right? I'll have that at the top of the script. That'll just output objects. There you go. And then you intercept the application. You actually create an alias for get, right? And you take that into a function first, and then you run this through that in an output. So then somebody runs if.config or get, and they just get PowerShell objects back if there is a valid parser. They don't have to actually think about, oh, hey, how do I parse that? Oh, do I have to remember to pipe that into this other thing to go get me back objects? The interception type or decoration and then formatting of output is the way to go. The other thing I would add is that EasyOut doesn't just produce format files, it also produces type files. And if there's anything get process has taught us collectively, it's that people really don't like lying headers. So if you're creating properties, right, to simplify the output, create an actual script property or an alias property to make that even easier for your user, because we can have as many alias properties as we want. We can make all the typos actually workable code. We don't need to require that they know the innards of ifconfig or any other tool. Just that somebody did at some point to write you some PowerShell so we could all collectively forget about it. Mic drop.
All right, thanks, James. And we'll definitely take a look into that. We have about a little over 5 minutes left, so I want to leave some time for any other questions. I saw one come up in the discussion from looks like from Aspen. And it says, I'm hoping there might be a chance to remind the team responsible for PowerShell run spaces and Azure automation that there really are some of us out in the world who would like to see a supported 7.x run space. So I don't believe there's anyone on the call today from that team. I could be wrong, but I don't believe there's anyone on the call today, but we definitely can pass that feedback along to the team, to the Azure automation team, and make sure that they get that reminder. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Are there any other questions? Feel free to post them in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, we can get any other questions or topics answered today. I'll pause for a little bit and give anyone a chance to ask any questions.
Darren Catan had a comment, I think more than a question. Real-time parameter binding or dynamic parameter binding? Sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, okay, hold on. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I put in this merge request, and I'm really just trying to see if I'm the only person who wants this. Hold on. I'm going to just throw this out there because I don't think it's that big of a deal, but like I kind of really need this. All right, here, look. Check this out. All right, so drop the link in there. And my frustration with dynamic parameters is that you can't condition off of the value of a dynamic parameter because the output of the dynamic parameter block is evaluated after it's run. So you have no way of knowing what the previously defined dynamic parameter was, even if it's defined. Like if you can't just like, we have this like arbitrary collection of parameters that you have to return, like this one big collection object, instead of just like emitting it to the output pipeline, like everything else is done conventionally in PowerShell. So anyway, so I threw that in there, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna go just the working group, and I'm like, oh my god, and then they didn't meet, and I'm like, all right, like, can I please get some feedback on this?
Sorry, I'm just pulling up the PR. Yeah, the working group will definitely take a look at it. I think you may know this, but we also do community day on Mondays, so we can try and see if this can get a look at on Monday as well.
Sweet.
But if anyone else has feedback on this idea, it's all out in the open, so anyone is also welcome to provide feedback as well. But yeah, we can try and
high level, more parameter context is always good, especially around dynamic parameters. It would be really great to avoid writing the 5 to 10 lines of code I have to write every time to figure out if my dynamic parameter was mapped or not. Managing that sort of statefulness between your basically dynamic param block and the rest of your code is quite a pain in the butt. So I welcome the hope for improvement. I haven't had a chance to review the PR yet to see if it would actually help my scenarios, but again, sounds cool.
It didn't have the working group labels, so I put those on.
Cool. Thank you,
The PR.
Jim.
Yeah. Now we'll know about it.
Sweet. Thank you.
Alrighty, last 2 minutes. Any final comments, questions, feedback, anything anybody wanted to get out there before we meet again next month?
PowerShell compiled to WASM so we can run it on Cloudflare edge workers. I want that so bad.
Lol.
Talk to Michael or Flavian.
Oh no, we're already talking. We are combined. Like whatever we have to do, we need to make this happen.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for joining this month's call. We hope to see you next month. As always, think about maybe a demo for next month. We'd love to get more fresh faces. New folks who maybe haven't demoed something before would be really cool to see. It doesn't have to be something like new that you invented, right? Like it can just be like a favorite module that you have or like something you think is cool that maybe somebody else in the community made. That's also a really great demo. But thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next month. Hopefully you have a great month in between. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.